Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be talking to you today about the second half of January and the full moon that we have coming up in Leo on the 28th. Now I'm putting out this video a few days earlier than normal because there's just so much astrology happening in this month, January 2021, and it's very strong also in February. So I'm filming it on the 8th. It will hopefully be out in the world by the 10th. That is the day, if you go back to the last video, I mentioned that Eris at 23 of Aries is going stationary direct. 4 days later, on the 14th of January, Uranus goes stationary direct. And whenever a planet, particularly a slow-moving planet like these planets, goes stationary direct, it just magnifies the symbolism. And we feel that strengthened symbolism of the planets about a week to either side. So these are going to overlap as well. They have very similar symbolism. They're both quite revolutionary in nature. They both want to shift us to a higher state of being. They are both very eruptive. They're both linked to awakening, truth and awakening. So all of this energy, this sort of chaotic, eruptive energy, volatile energy, is going to be very strong. We had this in the first half of the month, and I mentioned in the last video that as Mars entered Taurus, it was actually coming into conjunction on the 6th of January. And that was really highlighting the US chart, and therefore that was very volcanic eruptive energy, and it doesn't need me to explain what happened that day. So that's the kind of disruptive energy we're going to experience. It could be linked to internet cutouts, cyber attacks, that kind of thing, but the energy is very strong. So that is, and in fact that kind of energy, as you will see as I go through this update, will continue all the way through January, and indeed is going to continue into February. So it helps to know that actually, because you can kind of set yourself psychologically. So Eris, Uranus, stationary direct on the 10th and the 14th. Then on the 17th of the month, we have Jupiter squaring Uranus exactly. Now, Jupiter expands whatever it aspects, so it's going to be expanding that upsurging, unexpected, revolutionary nature of Uranus. And remember, with Uranus, it's very much linked to volcanoes and earthquakes as well. They can be literal, they can be political, shocks, surprises, all that kind of thing. So Jupiter's going to expand that on the 17th. Now, both planets, Jupiter and Uranus, have similarities, actually. They are both about freedom and no constraint, and they're both very future-looking, forward-looking, bringing in something from bigger and better horizons. That's what that square's about. Now, yes, Saturn is squaring Uranus really the whole of 2021, but it's not exact for the first time until February the 17th. So Jupiter is stronger here. So although Saturn is in square, it's about sort of 3 degrees away, so it will be attempting some control or restraint on this very restless, expansive energy, but it's Jupiter that will tend to win the day with that. So that's on the 17th of the month. Then on the 20th, we have really just extraordinary energy. Really, wherever you are in the world, this is a very strong day astrologically, because this is the day that Mars and Uranus come together exactly at 6 degrees of Taurus. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, this is classically the signature of earthquakes and volcanoes of all kinds. So that is very strong. It's also the day when the Sun, Jupiter and Saturn all square Saturn and Uranus. So again, expanding and highlighting that very eruptive breakdown to breakthrough type of energy as well. Now, if we I can't do this video without looking at the inauguration chart. And I want to say, if the inauguration happens on the 20th at 12 noon Washington, if it does, the chart is very strong indeed, because in that chart, not only do we have the aspects I've just described, but planets start to come onto angles. Pluto is on the midheaven for that chart, 12 noon Washington, DC on the 20th, and that suggests big power issues, power battles. Uranus is very close to the ascendant, so that's highlighting Uranus. Pluto is square to the moon. The moon represents the people, so that's the intensity that the people are feeling at that time. The moon at 12 noon in Washington is at the anaretic degree, the 29th degree of Aries. And any planet at the last degree of the sign tends to bring out the shadow aspects of that sign. Well, in Aries, that's to do with aggression or being angry or impulsive or kicking off in some way. So these are super strong, and that the moon stays at that 29th degree for a couple of hours. So, but we're going to feel these strong energies wherever we are in the world. So warmth, hang on to your hats. Another strong day is the 26th of January because the sun comes to square Uranus. And this again is highlighting all of that symbolism I've been talking about. Earthquakes, shocks, surprises, internet cutouts, cyber attacks, truths, awakenings. There are going to be many, many disclosures and truths coming to light this year, which will indeed prompt the further awakening of people. It's a very clear link to see that. So that Sun square Uranus is on the 26th. Then we have the full moon at 9 degrees and 5 minutes of Leo, and that happens on the 28th of January. It happens at 11:16 a.m. Pacific and 7:16 p.m. UK time. Now, anytime there's a full moon, it tends to bring feelings and emotions to a head. And what are those feelings and emotions going to be about? Well, one of the big themes with Leo is leadership, strong leadership. And this could be, again, across the world, one of the big themes. There are other themes as well I'm going to go on to. But feelings and emotions coming to a head. So see where this 9 degrees of Leo is falling in your chart, because it is also a feeling of culmination, completion, closure, shining a light on what we haven't known before, that kind of a feeling. So see where it falls in your chart. And if you don't know, you can download a free birth chart from my website, go to this link above, buy a 2-part video series, and that you can use that over and over again to understand the meaning of any update I ever do for you in your chart and therefore in your life. So people have been loving those. Okay, now when we had the new moon in Capricorn earlier this month, I mentioned that we had a huge number of squares. Equally, those squares continue. Again, I don't think there's a single planet in here that isn't in square to something else. So there's this big feeling of clashes and tensions, and again, intractability, people having very different views and not being able, because it's a 90-degree angle, not being able to kind of see around the corner to see it from another person's point of view. So on that 3D level, that will feel intense, combustible, eruptive, and quite fixed. As I say, locking horns. Because here also at this full moon, we have the moon at 9 degrees of Leo. And whenever we have a full moon, sun and moon are always opposite each other. So the moon is actually in a T-square. It's opposing Sun, Jupiter, Saturn in Aquarius, and it's squaring Mars, Uranus, Black Moon Lilith in Taurus, that unruly, feisty, don't want to obey the rules, kicking off kind of energy. Mars, Uranus, Black Moon Lilith are pretty close to as feisty as you can get, reinforced by Eris and Eris, still in this super tight square to actually Venus being conjunct Pluto as well. So Venus, Pluto conjunct in Capricorn, top-down authority, squared to Eris in Aries on the street. That square between Eris and Pluto is going to continue till October 2021, which tells me we're still going to have a lot of, at the 3D level, a lot of social and civil unrest. So this is a very strong T-square at this time. And again, it has very strong themes of truth, shock, etc. as well. Now, one of the big themes around Leo is the heart. It's connected to heart energy. And this is very prominent here as we move through all this Aquarian energy Jupiter, Saturn in Aquarius all of this year, Saturn ongoing in Aquarius for 2.5 years. Pluto moves into Aquarius fully in 2024. A lot of Aquarian energy coming up. This is very mental. It's very higher mind. It's very important to balance that we stay in our hearts. And this full moon in Leo is very much reminding us of that, to stay anchored in the heart. And a very simple exercise, which I've described in my last book and I've often talked about in videos, there's such a simple practice, is to, particularly when you feel scattered and kind of very distracted, just sit down, close eyes, go quiet, and just imagine that you're breathing in and out through your heart as if it was a lung. And that quite quickly slows and deepens your breathing. And it has the effect of creating heart coherence. Your electromagnetic field expands, and that's measurable and becomes very coherent. And that means every cell in your body becomes coherent. The energy is coherent, and that has amazing health benefits as well. But what it also does, apart from keep you in a very good place of positivity, it infects other people with that coherence too. We're sending out loving heart coherence with that energy. And if you're with someone directly, physically, if that's possible in your world, that's a wonderful thing. But we're still sending it out to the field, to the collective, and it's still having an effect. So this is really wonderful because there's so much division and polarity in our world, and we're seeing it very clearly in all the astrology, all these squares and clashes, that it brings us back to remind us that for free, anytime, anywhere, we can just drop into this heart, breath, and heart coherence, because that will then lead us to unity consciousness. And it's going to be very easy in all the drama as well to become distracted. There's going to be so much going on at speed, head spinning, twists and turns of events. And it's okay to watch that as long as you stay in neutrality. Let's call it divine neutrality. You stay objective and you don't get drawn in. You just see it as a movie, because it really is just a movie. But if you get drawn in with negative energy of anger, fear, panic, whatever, that isn't going to help you. And it also tends to suggest that you're getting into a victim consciousness of your reference point being external, and then you're leaking power. You're giving away your power. So bring it back and see yourself all through this year as a creator. Just shut off the external stimuli. As I say, I stopped listening to the news about 10 months ago. I'm so much happier. Just shut off the external stimuli and you create. You create your reality with the frequencies of gratitude, appreciation, love, joy, bliss, all of those emotions. Hug a pet, hug a child, hug a tree, hug anything to get you to that more positive state and dominate your reality with those frequencies. Just exclude that external reality. You'll hear about it from other people anyway, so you'll know what's going on. But I think also in this world of huge division and polarity, that kindness should be our ruling principle. And something that came to me the other day was particularly when you're challenged, because everybody is finding this tough. There's very few people are having a good time in these extreme situations. In the UK, it's a very extreme lockdown situation. It's really unprecedented in our lifetimes. So it's easy to kind of lash back. So if you get a challenge from someone, social media or face-to-face or whatever, just take a step back and say to yourself, what would love do? Let that be your mantra. What would love do? Because when we're in a state of division or polarity or scatteredness or whatever, there are two broad timelines here. I mean, we're all very much on an individual, even more actually since December, on an individual timeline, but broadly within the collective, there are two broad trajectories or timelines. One is where people are feeding that drama, that polarity, that division, all that's happening, all that negativity, and therefore attracting more of it into their lives, into their reality. The other is where we're trying to master those higher frequencies and really stay in the light. Because remember, those lower vibrations of any kind on the earth cannot hold light. And light is pouring onto our earth. Gamma ray, neutrino, we're moving through the photon belt, spoken of it many, many times. That is pouring into our world and our cells. You're all being upgraded in every moment. We're being activated. We're being kind of electrically repatterned, if you like. And therefore, we have this best opportunity to ride that wave of light, and in fact, to ride that wave of love, if you like, to keep us on that higher fork in the road, that higher trajectory. So it's so, so, so important. Because with all of this kind of grittiness and fight and drama and twists and turns, it's going to be very confusing at the 3D level. This long, long running Neptune square to the nodal axis, Neptune in Pisces square to the nodal axis, comes exact, bizarrely, on the 28th of January, the same day as this full moon in Leo. And yeah, we're going to see it, as we have done so far, as what's true and what's not. What can we trust, what not? And we're going to have kind of layered realities, I think, because we're going to be, in one sense, for many people, it will be the stripping away of the veil of the illusion. But it will also be just truth and then silt, truth and then silt. Even for people who think, yeah, I've got the truth, I know what's happening, they'll suddenly hit another layer of silt and, oh, I'm not so sure. Because the lower expression of Neptune is things aren't as they seem. And there's going to be a lot in January and February, particularly January, end of, things not being as they seem. So just again, step back from drama, step back from judgment and say, I'm watching a movie. I'm just going to let all of this unfold and I'm going to stay in my creator's cave. Remember, creativity is another very strong theme for Leo. Leo is about leadership, it's about heart energy, and it's about creativity. So really use this energy well, because this is a super, super positive and powerful full moon. So Neptune is very strong. Remember that Neptune squaring that nodal axis, the higher expression of it is we are being called back to source. We are being called to the divine. We are being called back to our spiritual practice. And this is very ethereal energy. This is unconditional love. So really try and express that Neptune at the higher level. Now, I filmed a video just a week or so ago, which was really just my thoughts in general about 2021 and really trying to put a bigger context on the whole year and any of these updates I'm doing. So I'm going to put a link for that below. And if you haven't seen that, it may be really helpful for you to see it in a bigger context. But one of the hugely obvious big contexts, which I've been talking about in every single video, I think, for the last year, is Pluto in Capricorn. That's the big kind of first layer on the canvas, the deconstruction of the old order. And that will continue until 2024. Pluto doesn't fully exit Capricorn, the structures, government, etc., until then. Starting to move out 2023. And when I talk about that, I don't just mean governmental systems that may become chaotic and not working very well. I mean systems in general, because if we look at where the South Node is, the South Node is the past, what we're leaving behind. It's in Sagittarius. That sign is also linked to education. It's also linked to the law, the legal profession. Neptune in Pisces particularly is also linked to medicines and drugs and that sort of thing. So I think they're going to be big changes in all of those systems. And also with Uranus in Taurus, frankly. Taurus is what we've always known. It's fixed earth, it's what has always been. Capricorn is the status quo. And to have these two massive archetypes of Pluto and Uranus in those very steady status quo to do with the past, keep things steady as they are, just absolutely blowing them apart, we are going to see chaos. Expect to see chaos. And don't worry about that, because know that that's not going to last forever. I mean, in physics, chaos theory is very much about you have to unravel the old, you have to disintegrate the old before the new can be fully birthed. And that's what we're in right now. The other very exciting thing about the 28th of January is that that is the day that Chariklo moves from Capricorn into Aquarius. Now, I talked about Chariklo when I first discovered her. I think it was December 2019. And in myth, she is the wife of Chiron. She's deeply feminine, yin, receptive energy. To me, she's very linked to the Buddhist state of being, that eternal ground of being that's permanent and silent and eternal. She's very much linked to holding sacred space and how you can heal others, as she did with Chiron in the myth, simply by holding that sacred space, simply by her silence and her state of being. So she's very, very beautiful, and she's also really a kind of soul midwife, because she's there apparently at transitions of life to death, but she is very present in transitions of consciousness, particularly evolutionary transitions of consciousness, moving up. And because she's moving from Capricorn, the old, to Aquarius, the new, the future, that feels very exciting because it's also happening on the 28th. Now, remember, she has a 62-year cycle, but because she is yet another planetary body, along with Jupiter and Saturn, who moved out of Capricorn into Aquarius in December, she's joining them. So again, it's shifting the momentum from Capricorn, the old, what has been, into the new and the futuristic. Because her orbit is between Saturn and Uranus, Saturn is the known, the familiar, the old, the status quo. Uranus is the new, the future. So she is able to pull in new information from the future for us via Uranus. That can be galactic, it can be through insights, downloads, inspiration, but she's bringing in new information to aid that evolution of consciousness. So this is very exciting that she's now coming to Aquarius to conjunct Saturn and Jupiter too. Not only that, but when she was discovered on the 15th of February 1997, I think she was discovered by Mike Brown, astronomer in Tucson, Arizona, the discovery chart at that time is beautiful, it's exquisite. It's a 6-pointed star, which feels very auspicious. But Chariklo, at that discovery point, was at 6 degrees of Leo. Well, this full moon is at 9 degrees of Leo. So the full moon in Leo that we have coming up on the 28th is conjunct the discovery degree of Chariklo, and that day she moves from Capricorn into Aquarius. And that is really highlighting the role of Chariklo here. She's very fine energy, very ethereal, very beautiful, and just holds that still state of being to heal. So it's almost like they're very different levels of energy happening here. There's the really, gritty, eruptive, on the streets, fight, lots of squares and conflict and disagreement, etc. But there's also this very fine energy, and increasingly with our discovery of the dwarf planets and the deep space planets, there's a whole different level that's quantum, that's fine, that is offering us something very different in our evolution of consciousness. So it's almost like they're two very clear forks in the road here. And it's up to us, it's up to the energy that we are putting out as to what we're attracting back and which fork in the road we're taking. And it's almost like they really are two different realities here. I mean, we've all got our own individual realities, I say, very much, but they're two broad trajectories for our collective. And it is up to us in the mastery of our frequency that we attract whatever trajectory is closest. Broadly, those two broad collective trajectories, timelines. So this is really our role for 2021. Chariklo will help us immensely. So stay in your heart, Leo energy. Feel like the creator of your reality via love, joy, bliss, appreciation, gratitude. And that will help you ride this storm that we're going to be having over the next couple of months. It's not going to last forever. Ease us in late March, when we get to the March equinox and beyond, starts to ease, and particularly from May onwards, I think. So it's not going to stay the same forever. So just take this as an experiment in your mastery. So I hope that's helped. If you'd like more information about my books, my teaching videos, my very long monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. And really hope that's helped you. God bless. Bye for now.